Okay, so yesterday I swerved referring to myself as being proud of my students at graduation yesterday. And I've been thinking about my relationship with the word pride today because I actually have a fairly in-depth thoughts on this. I think there are three kinds of pride, and I think the third one that we'll discuss should have a completely different name because I think it's a completely different thing to all the other ones. So the first one is personal pride. So that's pride that you feel when you've achieved something yourself, something you have done. I did this. I feel proud. 2021, I did the Grand Tour. I did all of that myself. I organised it all. I did every single pedal stroke. I raised the 18 grand. That's all on me. I'm very proud of that because it's something that I did. The second one is participatory pride. Now, that's where you have a contributing factor in something being successful, like a coach at a football club. Now, to some degree, yesterday, I played a very, very small part in those students' graduation, but ultimately, over the 3 years that they were at uni, they did everything. It's all on them. They're the ones that turned up. They're the ones that submitted the work. We guided and kind of, nudged them in the right direction a tiny, tiny little bit. So I guess to some extent, there's a little element of participatory pride yesterday, but really it's all on them. And then the third one I like to call proxy pride. Now, I think this is a completely different thing. This is where what you are feeling pride in, wrong word, but what people say they feel pride in is something that they have absolutely no part in, and actually in some cases they have absolutely no choice in. So for example, somebody might be a very proud football fan and feel a sense of pride when their football team wins, but other than standing on the sidelines, maybe in the stands cheering along, their involvement in the win is absolutely zero. They have no part in this. And to some extent, I also think patriotism is the same kind of thing. People have this kind of patriotic pride in a country. They had absolutely zero choice where they were born. I remember in an interview with Paul Weller, he was asked if he liked being British, and his reply was something along the lines of, well, I don't know, I've never been Spanish. And it's true. A Spaniard's proud of being Spanish, had absolutely no choice in the matter of where they were born. So whilst I think the first two types of pride are actually very valid, obviously the biggest one of those is personal pride. I did this thing. And then secondly, you got participatory pride. It's kind of like I was involved to a greater or lesser extent in this thing, and I feel a sense of pride in that. I think the third type, proxy pride, actually needs to have a completely different word because I don't think one relates to another. Being a proud football supporter, for example. Okay, I get it, but let's think of it in a completely different way and see if this makes sense. You'll all know that I'm a big fan of cycling, and the other day I was talking about Gerard Gruber, a photographer. I love photography, I love cycling, but when I see a picture of the Tour de France that Gerard Gruber has taken, I don't feel any level of pride. It's not the same as kind of like when a footballer scores a goal. No sense of pride whatsoever because it had nothing to do with me. I might feel pleased, I might feel inspired, I might feel motivated, I might feel happy, but it shouldn't really be called pride. So those are my thoughts, kind of broadly speaking, on pride. But then it got me thinking in a slightly cynical, slightly more world-weary way. So in my experience, people that have high levels of personal pride tend to have very low levels of proxy pride. So they don't tend to seek that feeling in other people's achievements because they've gained it in their own. And I think perhaps if you were living in a country that had a slightly more controlling state, for example, it would make sense to suppress all those things that give people a level of personal pride, right? Entrepreneurship and kind of self-efficacy, promoting the arts, promoting music and things like that. Those things that give people a sense of personal pride. If you drive that down, you're going to drive up these levels of proxy pride like patriotism, and you're going to be able to keep these people kind of more maybe able to fight for the country and serve the interests of the state a little bit. So I wonder if there's a kind of some sort of research in that. I might do that. But yeah, I think, in my opinion, that if you didn't do something or have a small part in it, I think we should come up with a different word for pride.